Today we're going to be making the knife from Rambo. Now admittedly, this isn't the most practical style of knife, but it's still really cool. In drawing down the point so much, what I did was I also made it not just longer, but fatter. And so I need to hammer the sides down in order to get it all one uniform thickness so that the blade isn't the fattest at the end. If the blade were fatter at the end than it was the back, it wouldn't flex properly. It would have stress points somewhere in the middle that would take all the bend, as opposed to having the entire blade bend as like a bow. To let the blade normalize, what I'm going to do is heat it up and then just let it sit in the vise and air cool. What this will do is it will help to eliminate any internal stresses that the blade may have so that it's less likely to crack in the future. So now that the blade is finished normalizing, what we need to do next is the rough grinding. So I have the basic shape and bevels ground out on the blade. What I need to do next is make the tang so that it'll fit the handle. Now for the handle, I intend to use this piece of pipe, which will give me that hollow handle that we can stick things inside of. But the tang is just a little too fat to fit down inside of the pipe. So I need to grind this tang a little bit thinner so it fits inside, as well as clean up the sides of the blade because there's a lot of scale on them that I would like to clean up as much as possible. One of the most characteristic details of Rambo's knife is the grooves that run down the spine of the knife. The purpose of these is so that in a pinch you can use the back of the knife as a saw. It's not a particularly good saw, but in a tight spot it would work. Now in order to cut these, I'm going to use an angle grinder. This is definitely not the best way to go about this, as these are pretty precision, but an angle grinder just isn't. However, we'll see how it goes. The next thing we have to do is make a guard for it. Now the guard for this is actually kind of cool. It has a Phillips head screwdriver on one side and a flathead screwdriver on the other. So what I'm going to do to make this is I'm going to make it out of this piece of 1-inch flat bar, and I'm going to punch a hole through the center and spread it, and the knife tang will fit through that hole, widening it so it is about the same width as the handle. The next thing I have to do is go and grind the screwdriver heads into the guard. The heat treat in the oil gave the blade a matte black finish, which is really cool, but it's not the finish that we're looking for this particular knife. So I'm going to give this a light sanding and try and clean that off and make it a little shinier. I have the handle taped up now so I can dump some epoxy in the top, and that will hold the blade in place, but the epoxy won't run out before it. The epoxy has had some time to dry, and I will say I'm pretty happy with how that came out. Most of it is like coated in epoxy that's oozed out, and the handle is a little cockeyed. It must have just been sitting in the vise angled. It's a little disappointing, but we'll make it do. let's hack through some stuff.